What is up, Ravens flock? Huge shout out for your support for the 410 Sports Talk. James and Glenn are the best in the business. They're killing it right now. They love talking Raven talk. Make sure you go subscribe to their channel. Let's go Ravens. Big trust.
Welcome everybody to another episode of 410 Sports Talk. I'm Glenn Martin here with my co-host James Haskell. And this episode, we're going to unfortunately be back to discuss another bit of bad news for your Baltimore Ravens. But before we do us a favor, give us a like, hit the subscribe button. We will keep you up to date on all your Ravens news. And it's okay to like this video, even if it's about an unhappy and sad topic, which it most certainly is. So Jimmy,
it's a like and support.
Yeah, like and support. It certainly helps us out, and it's very easy to do so. But Jimmy, let the folks know why we are here.
Yeah, we are here to talk about, I think, one of Glenn and I's favorite Ravens, and that is Marlon Humphrey and his season-ending injury. It's been made official. Marlon Humphrey has a torn pectoral muscle. Now, is there other surrounding issues? Is it a bicep as well?
That was the initial reports, but I didn't see anything other than the pec.
But we know for sure it's a pec muscle, and it's not exciting. So Marlon Humphrey will be done for the season, accompanying the other folks, but specifically in the defensive backfield. You're talking about Deshaun Elliott also out. You're talking about, obviously, Marcus Peters already out. So, man, it's getting thin back there. Chuck Clark's got to be looking around, doing one of these and kind of, before every play.
Yeah. The last remaining of the starters.
Yeah, it's definitely a tough one. And, we paid all that money to Jimmy, and Jimmy has seemingly deteriorated and has no trust and confidence in his speed. And he tries to keep everything in front of him at this point. But anyway, we're going to talk about that. Obviously, it's incredibly impactful for the Baltimore Ravens. And I don't know, I'm not ready to talk about yet what sort of outlook the rest of the season has based on this injury. I'm not ready to talk about it yet.
Well, I'll step in and help you then, Jimbo, because we got to. I mean, we just have to. He's not coming back this year, and all we can hope for at this point is that the injury was early enough in the season that he'll be 100% when camp comes around next year. That's where we're at this point. And look, I want to talk a little bit about what Marlon Humphrey does because, Marlon caught a lot of criticism this year. I mean, there's no doubt that there's some plays he'd like to have back. I mean, there's just no doubt about it. But for the fans that are reacting saying stuff like good riddance, he was trash anyway, not missing much, could not be more wrong about Marlon Humphrey.
Yeah, look, I would love to know your analysis of football.
Yeah. I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, the different things that the Ravens asked Marlon to do, especially this year, when you talked about all the other guys who were gone, they asked him to do so many things. I mean, it's just unfair to criticize Marlon. I mean, look, if you want to point out when he has a bad play or a bad game, that's 100% fine. I think that's your right as a fan to do so. But to call him a bum and call him trash, I think it's just silly. He's still going into last week had forced more incompletions as the one-on-one man defender than any other cornerback in the entire league. So while he did give up some big plays, which is a little bit outside of the norm from him in the last few years, he also was still forcing plenty of incompletions throughout the season. He's still as physical a tackler as most linebackers out there. He's still as versatile of a player in that he's just as good in the slot as he is on the outside. The numbers show that. He's also deployed many a times over the team's best tight end in big-time situations. So basically all I'm saying is we're losing a hell of a player, a leader, a guy who's extremely competitive. I mean, Jimmy, what anything else you could add to what?
Yeah, he's our best defensive player.
Yeah,
in my opinion. I don't. You can name whoever you want. Calais is having a great season. Obviously, he missed a game, but Calais is having a great season. Chuck's having a great season. Look, it was funny because in the Ravens Wired that they did of the previous game, where we beat the Browns, Wink and Marlon were talking, and it was funny because they were talking about defense really quickly, and he's putting his helmet on, and Wink said best in the world, right? He said, "You're the best in the world." And he said, and he was praising Wink for being a good coach, putting him in a good situation. And then he looked at him, he said, he's ready to go back to work on the field. He said, guard your man. Like, that's it. It's so easy for Marlon Humphrey to say because 7 out of 10 of the guys he puts in front of him, he can just guard without like sweating it too much. But you tell me another corner in the NFL that regardless of the system, regardless of scenario, will always be out there on an island. And 7 out of 10 times he probably has the upper hand. You'd be hard pressed to find one. So he makes the defense, he makes Wink able to run his defense because he's so elite at guarding your man, which sounds so simple, but it is incredibly difficult. Incredibly difficult. And obviously same thing with Marcus Peters, but I would, argue that at this point, Marlon is a bit better while they're totally different players, both high value players. So super sad for him, hoping that he bounces back. Like you said, Glenn, of all injuries, like I'm glad that it's not a lower extremity thing. He can have an opportunity to somehow keep his legs up under him, keep his cardio to a certain extent. Obviously he's not going to be swinging his arms or anything like that. Maybe sit on a bike for a while, something of that nature, but, it's a tough one, man. But tell me what you think this does as far as the outlook for the rest of the season. Because look, like I said, I got to get a little bit like I have no. This is usually direct line to the IV of the purple Kool-Aid, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's straight up moonshine, right? I mean, no more purple Kool-Aid. I'm just riding on moonshine at this point. So, what's your outlook on the season defensively, based on Marlon being out?
Well, Marlon was the kind of guy that covers up a lot of holes. I mean, he's the guy that you lose you mentioned earlier that it's a different skill set being an outside corner and an inside corner. There's plenty of guys that are really great at inside and are horrible on the outside, and vice versa. Marcus Peters is a good example of a guy who's elite on the outside, not a guy you really want to put on the inside. That's what makes him so special. Marlon so special is that he was just as good no matter where you put him. So what this does on the field is it certainly limits what Wink can do from a schematic standpoint, because he doesn't have that guy that can guard your best. If your best receiver is a slot guy, like we saw in New England, all those slot guys for them years with Wes Welker and Edelman and all those guys, he could eliminate your best slot guy. Or if you had a big time outside receiver, big possession guy, deep ball threat, he could eliminate him. If your best player is a tight end, if that's your target on third down, your trusted tight end, he could eliminate him. Mm-hmm. Now we don't have a guy that can do all that because there's not many in the whole entire league that can do all that. So now they have to do so by committee. And let me just tell you who your starting corners are right now, and you tell me if you feel good about it. I mean, right now you're looking at Anthony Averett, Jimmy Smith, and Tavon Young. I mean, Jimmy Smith is, like you mentioned, an absolute shell of himself. And if he practices, we're surprised. If he plays, we're nearly shocked. Anthony Averett came into this year with high hopes, but was
up and
obviously
down. He's been very up and down.
Yeah, and a guy that is heavily targeted when Marlon's out there. So hey, look, maybe Anthony Averett will be less targeted now that Marlon's not out there because they might find
Jimmy.
Yeah, Jimmy, Tavon, great slot receiver. Corner, but has been banged up. He's a smaller guy, and really, this is probably the healthiest season he's had. And he's missed games as well this year. Chris Westry, it's
banged up.
Just
to start. Not even healthy, much less.
And even when he's healthy,
experience.
He's picked on often because of his lack of experience. Kevon Seymour, hurt. Also, not very talented. Robert Jackson just signed. Not very talented. So it's just incredible to me that if you would have said let's talk about back in March, where would you have said our best and deepest position group is?
Corner. Corner for sure. I think we have the best corner room in the NFL.
And
I would have said that back in March, especially thinking that Jimmy didn't deteriorate so quickly.
Yeah, we didn't know that as well. But now they're a weak point in this team. Yeah, they're a bad group. So what this does is it limits, again, like Wink can't just call. Fans may be happy to hear this. I don't think he's going to be calling all those zero blitzes like we're accustomed to seeing. I don't think we'll lead the league in blitz rate for the remainder of the year because they're going to have to put guys in coverage. But what that does is it limits what you can do as far as disrupting the passer. Unless you get pass rush from your front four or maybe five, then chances are the quarterback's going to have some time to sit back there. And even if you do commit more guys to coverage, if given enough time, I just have very little confidence these guys are going to be able to cover for a long period of time. Now, maybe this awakens the front seven and we start to see an improved pass rush, but that's a big maybe, and that's a lot of hoping. So the bottom line is this team's going to be limited going down the stretch of the season. And in the most important part of the season, they are likely going to have their least talented defensive group out there, even if they do get a couple guys back, guys like where's his name? Defensive end, Dalen Hayes. Even if he's somehow able to come back and help, which that's a big if right now because he had a setback. I mean, it's just there's no guys that are that close to come. Like Pernell McPhee, he might be back towards the end of the season. But what's he really bringing to you other than some enforcer type stuff at the run? The run attack. It makes the outlook pretty grim right now, Jimbo.
Yeah, I'm concerned. I'm extremely concerned, and that's why I'm hesitating to make any declarations on the season, positive or negative. It's really hard for me right now because I'm emotional. I'm emotional because I feel bad for this team. I feel bad for Marlon Humphrey, and I think that at the end of this season, and I might be giving up some cards, but with the way that it ends, injuries might end up being the reason that people lose jobs. Because if you're not rational enough to realize what's going on, injury wise, you might be a little quick triggered and people might move on. So anyway, it's going to be really interesting to see what happens from that, as far as that goes. But on the field, yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, Marlon's just incredible and unable to be replaced. And so I don't know.
Well, who do you? All right, let's say they're playing the Packers later this season, which they are. It's a big third down.
You got Averett on Devontae. I mean, that's all you can do because it can't. Now, the only thing I guess I could say, I mean, he's a fast dude as well. Like, if it's a receiver that's not incredibly overwhelmingly fast, I guess I would want Jimmy on him, right? Like, if
he's even up and ready to play,
right? That's the thing is that Jimmy and Tavon are both battling with their in-season injuries, and even Averett.
Yeah,
he's had we don't have a single corner that's been on this roster from week one that hasn't been banged up and not just banged up, but missed games.
Yeah.
Like we're not talking about a bruise in the shin. We're talking about missing games. So yeah, it's a really tough proposition and going to be interesting, but
it's going to be a team effort. They're going to have to pick them up as a group.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, because you don't just have one guy you can put on anyone in a particular moment, whether it's a slot guy because they love going to him on third, a tight end, or an outside receiver. Now you got to do it as, all right, well, if it's a slot guy, Tavon, you got him. If it's an outside guy, either Averett or Jimmy or Chris Westry, you got him. If it's a tight end, maybe Jimmy, maybe Chuck Clark, maybe one of the safeties that we got on board with Brandon Stevens. And either way, it's a big, big step back from what Marlon brings. Any one of those is a step down, even at their best, than what Marlon would bring, even if it's not his preferred position. So it's going to be a stretch. I tell you, Wink's going to have to – his best coaching job will have to come now if this team wants to get to where they want to get to. And, it's just it's an uphill climb from here on out. But nobody's going to feel sorry for the Ravens. No opponent is going to take it easy on the Ravens.
Yeah, no.
And every team is dealing with their fair share of injuries. It just so happens that the Ravens have had them at a lot of key positions. So, man, it's going to be a tough way down the stretch, but hopefully this team can rally. We can see some big performances from guys we may not expect it from. And it's just enough, with a banged up AFC in general that they can squeeze in. And then once you get in the playoffs, Jimbo, you know it just like everyone. You never know what can happen once you're in the dance. So if they can somehow find a way in the dance, we'll see what happens.
Well, you're doing a good job, Glenn, at trying to paint a better picture than I have in my mind. So let us know what you guys think. How do you feel coming off of not only the loss, but of course, Marlon Humphrey being out for the season and that news as well. Give us all your thoughts in the comments below. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and we'll talk to you guys soon.